Hi, I'm Silver. I mostly do art and stuff, and I do video essays when I feel like it mostly. Anyways, what is Origins of Olympus? Well, it's an mcrp series that I liked when I was in middle school. It's based on the Percy Jackson series, so naturally it's going to be about demigods going to a camp. In this case, it's Camp Oasis, or the Oasis of Demeter, and dealing with all their demigod problems. This one is gonna talk about someone. Before we talk about that, let me segment. So before you guys can understand what I'm talking about, I think first we need to discuss Recaro. So Recaro, he is the son of Set, a unicorn from Mercury, goes to Earth, adopts a dad, Xylo. Now he's going to tell you he's over 700 years old, but he's actually 18. And also he gets a girlfriend, whom he was also about to sort of propose to at the Cleopatra's ball until... In a few episodes prior to this, it is actually revealed that Recaro isn't Set's child, because Recaro is actually Set's vessel. If my memory of the series serves correctly, Set was only able to do this because Recaro had an open portal to Mercury, which, he opened. And it's also because of Recaro's distress, which was caused by his friends keeping things from him, which in of itself was a self-fulfilling prophecy in an attempt to keep Recaro out of it. He was only entrenched deeper. Anyways, back to Cleopatra's ball. Recaro, now possessed by Set, completely rips up the set. Pun intended. Anyways, adopted dad Xylo tries his best to stop him, but what is this one guy going to do against Set? The same Set from Egyptian mythology, and a god, so yeah. So another character, Mr. Minthair himself, Cal, I'm from the UK Roads. Anyways, Cal, like all the other attendees, went back to his room after the ball, kind of beaten up and relatively upset, because his friend / sorta son just got possessed. And so Set forces Cal to be his spy, and you may be wondering, why does Set need a spy? Well, I don't really remember, but I'm pretty sure the god Set has better things to do than pay attention to silly little demigods. I mean, he has bigger fish to fry. And honestly, I love Set's introduction. Even as a disembodied voice, Set always had one thing, if nothing else: room presence, a sense. He had aura. Even down to the voice acting. I read one comment on Set's full introduction episode, and I think it encapsulates it perfectly. Set's tone is always mocking. He always sounds like he's making fun of whoever he's talking to, which contrasts heavily with Recaro, who always sounded very genuine and a little naive, opposed to Set, who always seems to have a bigger plot at hand. Speaking of, what is Set's plan in all of this? I said he had bigger fish to fry, but what are they? Well, according to Set, he wants to unleash the Ouroboros, yes, this one, the world-eating snake. He says there's a planet better than Earth, but he doesn't want anyone else to go there, except for him. So he's gonna unleash the Ouroboros and make it kill everyone and everything, so he alone can rule that new planet. I suppose he's still bitter that he didn't get to be king of Egypt when he lost to Horus. Already, we see how grand Set's plan is, and he has a motive. If you remember my video on Brandine, another villain from this series, I didn't really like how he had little to no motive, or at least one that was spoken out loud. But I do think it's a little funny how this guy is technically more of an agent of chaos than the actual god of chaos. But moving on. So how does Set plan to execute his plan? Well, he's got this dagger / staff that he plans to use to unleash the Ouroboros. But he needs to power the staff. How? Well, he's gonna off 3 people. Sometimes villains show up, fail, and lose all their menace. But not Set. He actually does succeed in offing 3 whole characters, but I'm only going to talk about 2. First on the chopping block, Roku the monk, and also the reincarnation of one of the 4 heavenly kings, but more importantly, Rikaro's first friend. You see, when Rikaro had first come to Earth, he was greeted by Roku, which is how this death managed to have impact, despite Roku not being a very fleshed out character. I should probably also mention that the dagger Set is using messes and destroys souls, basically. So that heavenly king is not reincarnating again, probably. But at least he didn't go out without a fight. Kinda. Set even donates Roku's body to Brandine. Nothing really came of it though, but don't you just love villain friendship? Anyway, the next soul belonged to a fellow called Inmo. Inmo actually debuted in Season 1, so naturally he had time to build bonds with other characters. And one thing about him, he likes his pets. Pets that the previously mentioned Xylo helps him get. So they're pretty good friends. How Inmo went out is also a little bit dark. To set the scene, Cal with Set looming behind him, Inmo and Rikaro's girlfriend, Momiji, on both their sides, unable to move. Set hands him the staff. Kill Inmo or I'll kill Momiji, both begging not to die. Cal was already friends with Momiji. Even if she is evil now, she's still his friend. So hesitantly, he draws closer to Inmo. Cal doesn't know Inmo. The two haven't met. But even so, Inmo says, "If you kill me, could you save my bird?" Before Cal put the staff through Inmo asked if he could take care of his bird and other pets. This scene was absolutely jarring when it came out. What's even more jarring is what came next. That's right after collecting Inmo's soul, Set leaves his body right on Xylo's front door, the first thing Xylo sees in the morning. And as I mentioned earlier, Inmo and Xylo were good friends. Can you imagine that, seeing the body of one of your friends right on your doorstep? Anyway, Cal comes and explains what happened. Xylo, in a mix of shock and confusion, initially blames Cal, but he eventually understands since he was put in a similar situation. This season, actually. And this moment actually continues to heavily weigh on Cal, even up until Season 3. What made it worse is that Cal didn't even know Inmo, like I mentioned earlier. It almost makes you wonder, what's worse, killing someone you consider a brother or killing a complete stranger? And moving on with this one event, Set has managed to traumatize at least 3 whole characters. Cal, because he was just forced to kill a guy. Momiji, realizing that she could have died and Set almost killed her. And Xylo, who just found the body of his friend on his porch. And what I've yet to tell you is that Inmo was also pretty close with Rikaro. Set isn't just killing people, he's going out of his way to kill people Rikaro held close, and then hurting all the others in the process. Set is essentially spitting on Rikaro's memory, because in Set's own words, Rikaro doesn't exist anymore. But still, characters will try to reach out to what may be left. You see, Cal is actually the reincarnation of the Egyptian god Khonsu. Khonsu is the god of the moon, which means Cal gets access to time manipulation powers. Don't actually know how this works, but anyways, because this is a multi-episode long arc, the characters actually have time to find a counter to Set. Enter the Blade of Osiris, or the Dagger of Osiris. Sorry, Osiris is just a really hard name to say. Anyways, the blade can seal away gods. After Cal uses his time manipulation powers to get through to Rikaro, who is still alive by the way, and completely conscious of everything that's been going on. And after Cal convinces Rikaro not to give up, Set and Xylo have a custody battle with blades, fire, and meteors. in which Xylo uses the dagger of Osiris, and it doesn't work. Set proceeds to then mock Xylo and make fun of him for essentially attempting to kill him and his own son. The whole family dynamic is kind of weird. Fortunately, after Cal's pep talk with Ricaro was able to kick Set out of his body, and afterwards they managed to trap Set in a magical mirror, which was foreshadowed and even used earlier in the series. And after that ordeal was over and done, Ricaro fully claims Cal and Xylo as his actual mom and dad. So, to summarize, Set had one of the best villain setups, at least out of the series. Set had so much stage presence, you really couldn't miss him. And I really appreciate how Set isn't just a passive plotting villain. He was actually active and progressing his plan. I like the way he's defeated. As you know, Set was a god, a deity basically. The ragtag team of demigods was not defeating this guy in fist to fist, so they used Set's arrogance against him. And also, it's pretty important that almost all the major characters in this story pitched in some way to defeating Set. You see, Set thought he could take over Xylo's body without a struggle, and didn't even realize when Xylo pulled out the mirror. So yeah, that's why I think Set is one of the best villains of Origins of Olympus. And I haven't even gone over his Season 3 appearance. But he's not really a villain in Season 3. But Set's not necessarily my favorite character though. That'd have to go to someone else. And also, yeah, sorry for the bad mic quality and sorry for places where my voice kind of sounds weird. I'm still kind of new to the whole video essay thing. But still, thank you for sticking around and watching till the end. So that's all, you can leave now.